So when it comes to summer, a daily list of non-negotiables or just some simple parameters can definitely help anchor your summer fun without the chaos. So here's a list of some great ideas that you can take right back to your home. If summer has snuck up on you, I've got your back, Mama. So when it comes to summer, we definitely want to make it fun, but we also want to have a little bit of structure just to anchor that in and not completely have chaos. So the first tip is to start your day with purpose. And this can look like so many things. If you like to have slow mornings, that is a you thing. That is fine. Whatever works for your family. You have whatever your family non-negotiables are, you get to decide that. But by giving children those expectations and front-loading them, we set ourselves up for the fun of the day without the battles that can ensue when we kind of just go wonky with our expectations. And this is something that I brought to the table, having had so much experience with children in a classroom. And I always tell people, working with your own children, whether homeschooling or just they're home for the summer, it's completely different than a classroom setting. But one thing I did learn from years and years of experience with working with children is they do better when they know the expectations. And that just goes to some solid communication. You obviously are the parent and you get to set the foundation and you get to set the parameters. So a little tip, something that I did was, even if it was just getting into some comfy play clothes or their swimwear for the day or whatever it was, a simple change from pajamas into clothes for the day set the tone in our house. That can vary for you, but that's just an example of something that we did that was super helpful to us. Although I think it's pretty cool to have a day set aside to do that once in a while. Everybody needs to lounge in their jammies all day once in a while. So another non-negotiable in our house during summer when my boys were little was to always include some reading time in the day. And for us, this carries over and connects to another non-negotiable that we had, which was a quiet time every day without screens, without any, roughhousing. It was just kind of a time to settle in. But that can look different from family to family. So just having reading or literature as part of your day every day is great for a couple reasons. First of all, there's something really, really good about getting children engaged in text and away from some screens. It's very calming for a lot of kids, and it can look a lot of different ways. Again, I said ours tended to be part of their quiet time, and I gave the boys a bit of autonomy for how they did that. There were times where they climbed a tree and read a book. There were times where they read during their quiet time. But, that can look, again, a lot of different ways. But the important part is that it keeps them engaged. It gives some time to kind of center their brains, but it also prevents some summer slide, making reading a part of your day in a way that connects it to positive things, building a little fort and having their books or, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you. But keeping those books, that reading time in your summer plan is a really great way to encourage that as part of your child's life. The really great thing about including reading time is that it can be for all ages. In fact, one of the things I noticed about my boys when they were little and before they started reading fluently, when they were just super littles, is they enjoy turning those pages. They are learning concepts about print when they do that. They're learning to engage in the activity of books and learning to have that as part of their life. So this can be great for toddlers. This can be great for older kids. It's really for everybody, even for mom and dad. It can be even for the adults in the household too. Setting an example is often a really great thing, but that's up to you how you want to structure that in your day. And of course, as grownups, we have tons of responsibilities. So that's, also something you have to keep in mind. But so why was this important? This is really making some connections in their brain to positive connections to books. And we definitely want to do that. One way that we did this is we structured it as part of our day. For us, it was part of our quiet time. I think I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Some families find it to be really great to do after breakfast. It's just kind of a great way to start their morning. Whatever works for you, but having this as part of a non-negotiable, even if it's just something they have to get done before they have their tech time, is a very positive thing to include in your summer plan. All right, non-negotiable number 3. In our household, we always had something called family contributions, otherwise known as chores or whatever was age appropriate at the time. We called it a family contribution because we really wanted our boys to understand that this was something that they did to contribute to the household where they were a member of our family community or our family unit. And part of being a member of a family unit is to contribute. And so that's how we structured it in our house. But giving children an age-appropriate responsibility within the house is a really great way to lay a foundation for independence, responsibility, understanding that their contributions matter. There's so much good to this. Even littles, when my boys were super small, I used to give them a little hand broom. They thought it was so fun after mealtime to go around while mom swept and to help sweep up stuff too. And so even just setting the tone like that with our super littles, but also as our children get older, giving them more responsibility to contribute to the household also gives them a sense of belonging and autonomy in the household and a little bit of ownership in that family unit. So I highly recommend encouraging at least a couple of contributions that your children can do that sets the tone for the expectations in your house. So another non-negotiable in our home was actually quite easy to implement for us. We had 2 very active boys, but really getting outside for portions of the day. This isn't only a matter of getting movement and exercise, but it's also a matter of getting some healthy sunshine, right? And getting some fresh air and also developing some of those motor skills that are super important for our children. I think too often we are sitting and on our screens these days, and encouraging this type of activity for 30 to 60 minutes a day, even more is amazing. Getting them out there and letting them have free play. It doesn't even have to be structured. Let them build their forts. I remember my son, he got some of my garden trellises one time and he built a fort, and I just thought that was amazing and creative. I didn't always like the mess, but this is part of having kids. And so, let them have their bit of creativity in this and just let them move. When we let children move and play, there's so much good that comes from that. But also we're building trunk and core stability when children climb. Also when they climb, we're building strength in their arms that actually transfers over into being ready to write and to hold their bodies appropriately for tasks like writing and spelling. So in any case, these activities, I think they're not done as much as they used to be. And I think this is actually part of why we see some delays in children, not across the board. I'm not speaking to serious delays, but some of the issues that we see can really be connected to not having this as much a part of our children's lives in general. And I can attest, you can be a parent that is including this and you still have challenges. So it's not definitely a fix all. And I really, from my experience, would never come on and say, this will fix it all and prevent everything. But it can go a long way in helping to prevent some delays, or if your child does have delays, it can help develop those skills in a really fun way, get them moving, get them active, and get their energy out. Because after that, hopefully it's time for, depending on their age, maybe a nap, or if you were in our household after nap time disappeared, we did something called quiet time. And quiet time, that was super significant to my sanity. I'm an introvert, and I was always really quiet as a kid. And I have two boys that are super energetic. And when they were little, obviously they needed to be out and about. They needed to be able to have their toys out and play and make noise. But every day for about half an hour to 45 minutes, even after naps disappeared, we always had a quiet time. Now, I did talk about how this helped me, but it also helped my boys because it gave a wind down time. And for us, we did it in the afternoon. It gave a wind down time that really, to me, it was always something that benefited them, helped kind of bring them back down to earth, and then got them ready for the rest of the day, especially if your children are prone to that twilight, time where it's like not quite dinner, and that's when kind of behavior gets wonky. I found that it was a bit centering for us, and it created some structure in our day. Now, of course, my expectations for quiet time were basically no screens and any quiet activity that's not dangerous, okay? So like no climbing out of windows, things like that, even, because sometimes when kids are super quiet is when they're getting in the most trouble. Ask me how I know. One time we ended up with rainbow bright carpet. So this does happen, okay? But we are not without our experiences. Trust me, I've been there. But, definitely setting the parameters, but leaving it open. So as long as the activities were safe and quiet and didn't include screens, that was our quiet time. Maybe for your quiet time, screens are okay. And that's completely up to you as a family. You know what your children need and what works for you. But in any case, a quiet time can be a non-negotiable that helps give a little structure and prevents some chaos. Now, we definitely don't want to leave out family connection. Summertime is the perfect time for that, even outside of those family trips and outings, but just really simple things. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated, complex. I feel like, especially as I call myself an exennial because I'm kind of like in that little middle ground between millennials and Gen Xers. But in any case, I kind of identify with both camps in some ways. But, I feel like our generation of parents and then kind of like the next couple of generations, we have gone all out in our parenting. We had elves that did crazy things every day, and we created all these amazing experiences for our kids. And that's not really necessarily the problem. And I'm not saying don't do that. But sometimes just those simple things are what make the most impact on our kids. And I think, my boys are now 17, almost 17 and 18. And I think when we talk about the things that we did, it's not like the elaborate outings or the birthday parties that I planned. It's these very simple connection points that we had. They talk about times when I just read them a story, or we sat around as a family and made s'mores. Those times, as corny as that might sound, that is what comes up most when the boys talk about things that they remember from their childhood. So being on this end of it, I can definitely say keeping it simple is great. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but you do you. But in any case, having those times of family connections, building those core family memories. We always did a summer, we bucket list, but you can call it whatever you want to call it. But that set the expectations too, and let the boys give input about the things that they wanted to do during the summer and gave them some ownership. One last thing that can be super fun to add into your summer, if you have the bandwidth and the time to do this, but having like a little anchor activity for each day can help set the expectation for not only your children, but also gives you a little bit of a guideline to go by, so you're not like having to create every day from scratch. So maybe, library really works well for you on Tuesdays. And so, you have a library day on Tuesday, or maybe on Fridays you do park day and you take a little picnic lunch, or whatever it is that really works for you in your schedule, creates a little bit of a plan, so you're not having to reinvent the wheel every single day for the next few weeks, and including them in some of your day-to-day activities. You need to get things done too. It's a great opportunity for kids to learn about life. And, if you're in a situation where you can't do that, maybe your child is just not really the right situation for them to do that, that's okay too. You have to make the decisions that are best for you and your family, but creating a couple of anchor activity days is a great opportunity. And again, I'm not talking complex. Make it simple, make it accessible, and make it doable, because you want to also get a little bit of refreshment during the summer, especially if you're a teacher off for the summer. You want to be ready to go back into your teaching while still having had that time of connection with your kids without the chaos. And with that, I wish you an amazing and non-chaotic summer. Make sure to check back in here, as I will be giving updates, ideas. If you're planning homeschool, I'm going to have tons of information coming out on homeschooling and planning that. And check out my sister channel, Dr. Deanna's Learning for Littles. You are not going to want to miss all of the reading fun that we have going on there, with singing and movement, learning sounds correctly, and skills that have been proven to be connected to long-term reading success. So check out my sister channel, Dr. Deanna's Learning for Littles.